So you're the youngest professional referee in the business. You get this amazing start with Kowalski, which you took full advantage of, as that was the right move.
Good business.
And you knew that how lucky you were to be in that spot. So then you were associated with the Savoldis. And a lot of us don't know that much about that period.
Yep.
So I thought maybe we could talk about that for a little while.
Definitely. The Savoldis were involved with WWF back in the day in like the 70s, and Mario refereed. Angelo was an agent in the back. And then Mario started International Championship Wrestling, and it was getting a name for itself. And he had a bunch of syndicated stations all over the country. It was on 80 different TV stations all around the country. So they were doing a TV taping.
This is the 70s or 80s?
This would be like 83, 84.
That's a lot of stations, especially
Back then.
Back then,
Because you couldn't get on because cable wasn't really that big then.
Yeah.
It was just starting. So you had to, negotiate all around.
You had to do a big syndication. That was not insignificant, right?
And, well, it was huge because he was the only company doing that. So I got a call on a Saturday from this wrestler called Rocky Raymond, who I've known for a number of years, and Tony Rumble also. They were going up to Lewiston to do the TV taping. So Rocky called me and he said, I just talked to Mario, he's down a ref. You want to take the ride? I'm like, shit, yeah, of course I will, Went up to Lewiston, met them all, started working for them, and I worked for them for about 2 years. In the beginning, it was just like what he was doing, but then he made so many connections around with Vern Gagne, which I got connected with the Von Erichs, with Kevin Sullivan from Florida. He had all these connections with all these major companies. So all of a sudden, all these like fresh off TV names or people you see in the magazines every month that you never see on TV, but there's pages about them in the magazines, all of a sudden, there I am with all these people and traveled all around with them, and he would do probably 25 matches a night for TV. And they were quick TV matches, like 3 to 5 minutes. And I remember there were 2 particular referees that I worked with back then, and the pay wasn't great, but it's not about the pay. It's about what the pay will come later. You know what I mean? Use it for what it is. So they would bitch and complain, the other referees. I don't want to do this match. I don't want to do that match. I don't want to do this match. So out of 25 matches, I would probably do like 18 of them.
In one night.
And the other ones would do the rest because they just didn't want to, because it was a 4-hour drive from here. It was a $40 pay for a 4-hour drive.
But you're building
you
your
spend
brand.
that on gas, you spend that on tolls, you spend it on the hotel because you didn't drive back and get back at 5 in the morning. You find a cheap hotel in Lewiston or Bangor or wherever we were, and you'd stay over and hang out all night and drink and eat and have a good time, So it was like an experience, and it was like being on the road, which is important because when you haven't been on the road, at least being away and doing that, you kind of get the idea of what it's going to be like if you make it to the big time and you're traveling. So it was just an incredible thing. The Savoldis were great to me, and I knew that Howard Finkel, who was a ring announcer for WWF at the time, his job at the office was to watch world-class TV, watch Dusty's TV, watch Savoldis TV, watch Japanese TV. That's what he did to look for talent. So eventually I reached out to them to see if, I heard there was an opportunity, and I reached out to them and I went to Connecticut and met with them, and I made a 10-minute demo tape of just clips of things that I did, crazy bumps and all these things. And, so I went to the office and I had a meeting at the office, and I had a publicity picture, a resume, and I slid the tape across the table. Terry Garvin, who was in charge of the referees, took the tape and slid it back to me. He goes, we already have a file on you from Savoldi. So the reason I was happy to be at Savoldi is because I knew that could be my opportunity. And as I'm in Titan Towers, talking to them about trying to do something, they tell me, we already have video of you from Savoldi. So they go, you have to have a tryout, which is just protocol. So my tryout was at the John F. Kennedy Coliseum in Manchester. I refereed the first match of the night, Jim Powers against Barry Horowitz.
Oh yeah, I remember those guys.
There were no major agents at the show. Like the lowest agent in the pile, was Patterson and Garvin and Strongbow and all these guys. And then I think it was Jack Lanza was the only agent there. And he had nothing to do with really anything that I was there. I did my match and that was it. And I'm driving home and I'm like, why wasn't anybody here to watch? It's my tryout. So I called the office. This was on a Saturday. I called the office Monday. Talked to Terry Garvin. He goes, you'll be getting a FedEx thing in the mail from us with a contract and your bookings. I'm like, awesome.
Cool.
So every month I'd get a Federal Express package. It would have your airline tickets. It would have your preferred hotel in each city, all your dates, where you had to be, what you had to do. And that was how it all started, and then use Savoldis as a stepping stone to get to where I never thought I would get. The funny thing was, it was known I was Kowalski's student, but Kowalski never made a call to Vince. I never asked him, help me get to Vince, which I could have done, and he probably could have done it in a second. Never asked him. It just kind of happened on my own, which is cool because a lot of people, most referees are ring crew guys. They set up the ring and they travel in the truck, and it's a crappy way to get in, but it seems that's how you learn to be a referee. You do that and they teach you before the shows and this and that. I never set up a wrestling ring in my career until the end of my career helping out at the Belltime Club, when we're short of people. But not that I'm better than anybody, but you talk to any referee in the business, past or present, they've all been on the ring crew. And I never was on the ring crew. I just was there as me and wasn't part of that. I was like my own thing.
You take your luck where it comes, right?
Yeah. So
that's good.
So yeah, it was incredible. So the first booking I had was Boston Garden. It was amazing. Absolutely, to come down that aisle with 15,000 people in front of you. It was the biggest crowd I've ever worked in front of, obviously. Savoldis had a couple thousand. Where I had gone for years with my father and watched all the legends, Bruno and all. So now here I am, climbing up those old wooden stairs, getting into that ring in the middle of history, And my goal was to work for WWF once in Boston Garden. That was my dream, to work with WWF one time in Boston Garden and have that feeling. If I did that, my career was complete.
Now, how old were you when you reached that goal?
It was 1986. So that was 6 years into being in the business, because I started in 80.
22?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very, very young. And I did it 38 different shows at the Garden and traveled around, which I never expected. I did all of New England all the time, some New York, some Philadelphia. So it was just, I wanted to do it once to make my dream come true, and it did.
38 times.
38
Your
times,
dream came true.
and the Centrum, the Providence Civic Center, Hartford, New Haven, Madison Square Garden, everywhere, Philadelphia. It was all bonus, It was like, wow, this is awesome. And you get to meet so many people. I met so many people in the Savoldis days who were names, who I'd run into again as I went along, that would always help because they knew you already and they liked you, and they'd have the sheet of who's going to referee the matches, and Honky Tonk Man would go and erase the referee's name off and write my name. Hillbilly Jim used to do that all. They loved being in the ring with me, because it was comfortable. Back in the day, we taught Carney in the ring, so you couldn't understand what was going on. And I was very good at talking Carney, so we'd be in the ring, and we'd be just talking Carney, because I blah blah the whole match, every match I ever did. Because if you're always active and always talking, they're not going to catch you calling a spot or doing something, because you're just doing it all the time. If you're just sitting around, walking around, and suddenly you're going over.
Which you see
all the time.
More often than
absolutely
you'd like nowadays.
Oh God, yeah.
I see it anyway.
Yep, yep. And I try to, the young referees, it's just like, you behind the guy and you're yelling at them. Get in front of them. They're in a hold on the mat. Don't stand 10 feet away. Do you give up? I kneeled down and got right in their face. what do you say, you want to give up? I was very loud, you could hear me throughout the arenas counting. You know, when I get to 2, I'd yell 2, you know how people say 2 when they hold the sign up? I probably was one of the first people that would yell 2 on the count of 2, you know, and now everybody holds signs 2 and things like that. But I was always boisterous, involved, making it look as real as it could, pushing them back, you know, grabbing them, getting between them, you know. And I started to get bigger, you know, and I'm hanging around with Hogan and Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior, and we're at the gym, so you don't have any choice really but to, you know, to work out. And then it was getting to the point that I was getting too big. I was as big as some of the wrestlers, and that was going to start to become a problem. So I ran into an issue with Linda McMahon on my last contract. They put a clause in the contract that they're no longer responsible if I get injured in the ring and blah, 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 and this and that. And I had an agent, because I did appearances. I didn't know how to deal. I was so young, I didn't know. So I had an agent that handled my stuff. I had a sports attorney who handled my contracts. And I was at my agent's house and I'm showing him this contract and he's just like, this is ridiculous. You know, how can they do this? You're the one that's getting thrown around, you know. Nobody else is, you know, but if you get hurt, they don't want to, you're not covered or anything. And I couldn't get insurance. I had to get insurance from Lloyd's of London, which was a fortune in the day. But you can't lie to your insurance company and say, oh no, nothing happens to me, I'm just a referee, blah, 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 blah. Because they could turn TV on 3 or 4 days a week and see me in the ring getting thrown out of the ring or hit with a chair or, you know. So it was expensive to do that. So I was at my agent's office and I called the office and he got on the phone with Linda McMahon. And he's like, what are you doing? You can't, you know. And she goes, first of all, I don't understand this anyway, but we have never had a referee in our company that has an agent. She said, and we're not going to deal with it. We're going to deal with Paul. We're not going to deal with you at all. So he put me on the phone, and she's like, Paul, it's as simple as this. Sign the contract, bring it to Boston next Saturday to the show. If you don't, that'll be your last show. And I'm just like, so I went to my lawyer, filled out he did paperwork like this thick, that I signed the contract under duress because I was going to lose my job if I didn't sign it. So I signed it and everything, went to Boston, saw Pat Patterson and Terry Garvin, gave them the envelope with the contract signed and all the paperwork. And I went from like 15 days a month to 12 days a month to 8 days a month to 4 days a month to just Boston TV, and then eventually nothing. So I bucked the system, I guess.
Trying to protect your
But I would
interests,
do
your
it.
health.
I'd do it again too, because it just, you know, you expected me to do these things, and that was when like Bundy and Bigelow were feuding, and they're fighting, they're killing the referees, and the next match I'm the referee, and they double bill me, and I fly through the air to the other side of the ring, and you know, it's just like I was taking bumps. I didn't get hurt. I never got hurt working for WWF. Didn't have a concussion when I was there. I had concussions before, and then ECW time. But so knock on wood, I never got hurt there. Paid a lot of money for insurance that I didn't need, but I had it in case something happened. And then I was just, it's like, now what do I want to do now? My dream was to work for WWF one time, and I've done it for 5 years. What is left to do? So I met Perry Saturn. Eventually they became the Eliminators. And we used to watch videos from Japan and Mexico and come up with ideas. And Perry said, again, I was working out with Perry then, so I was really getting to be sizable. He goes, why don't you be like a special referee? Like nobody else. The guy they can't beat up, the guy they can't throw down, the guy that hits them back. You know, why can't you do something like that? You can wrestle, you were trained, you can do it. I'm like, what do you think? So we thought about it. We came up with the Enforcer character. All stripes, striped shirt, striped pants, white boots, white wristbands, long hair. I had long curly hair. I had like a 12-inch ponytail, and it was curly. And the girls used to grab my hair and go, do you know how much it costs to have hair with curls like this? And this is just natural, you know? And it was just like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. But So I started doing that on the independents, and so I would do one match a night. In the main event, or if there was a feud and there was a problem, I'd be the one. If there was a manager interfered in the feud, I'd beat the manager up. I'd hit him, throw him out of the ring, you know.
So you were getting really physical during this period
But
of your career.
actually, my first match for WWF in the Garden, the first match I ever did was the week after Don Morocco and Bob Orton broke up. They were the tag team for so long, and then they had a feud. I did their first match against each other in Boston Garden. It was my first match. And I watch it on TV and see this feud going on. All of a sudden, I'm going to be there refereeing this first match of the feud, you know? So the match goes on. It goes good. At the end of the match, Orton rolls up Morocco, and he holds onto the top rope, and he's holding him down. I'm at the shoulders. I count 1, 2, and I see the hands on the rope, so I jump up, ran around, and kicked Orton's arm off the rope. And Morocco rolled him up. 1, 2, 3, and Morocco won. The whole friggin' place went crazy, and it was just like, wow. You know, but my first match with Vince, I was involved in the angle. So, and that was always fun. Most of the time I was. You know, just because I was able to do it and make it look better than it could have been. You know, he could have rolled him up and held him, and I could have counted, and it's like, you know, screw finish. You know, but I got up and kicked Orton, and Morocco rolled him up, and it was cool. So that went on Primetime Wrestling. It went on All American Wrestling on Sundays that they used to have. So the first match with Vince, I was right away involved doing stuff. So a lot of fun.